Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Rebecca.
Hey,
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties a little bit.
well, I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad it worked. I was getting a little
Yes, ma'am.
nervous.
Nah, all good. I'm sorry. Um,
That's all right.
my apologies. I thought I added you as a panelist. How's your day going so far?
Good. Although it's rainy here. Bummer. But how about you?
It's going good. Can't complain.
Yeah, good. It's
Can't
almost
complain at
Friday,
all.
right?
It is. Yeah. Pre-Friday. Got people rolling in.
Yeah, looks like it.
I'll give it like 5 minutes for people to join, and then I'll do some brief intros, and then we'll kick off the questions, polls, and questions. Sound good?
That sounds great.
Perfect. Yeah. Welcome everybody. If you could put where you're calling in from or joining from, that'd be great in the chat. I am actually in Atlanta right now visiting a family. I've been traveling for like the past 6 weeks, man. It's been crazy. Like it's been crazy.
I feel like every time I've tried to talk to you, you've been on the road. I can
No,
imagine how crazy that is.
no, it's been insane. Like I went from I haven't been back home in Tulsa since June 15th. Yeah, it's been it's been great. I've been living out of a suitcase for the past 5 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
it's
too
been
much.
it's been
Yeah.
crazy. It's been crazy. Conferences, vacation, work, family. It's been a lot, but it's
Okay,
good
so
though.
some fun at least. Some fun is in there, I
Some
hear.
fun, yeah. So I went on a cruise to Bahamas and like Turks and Caicos, like the week of July 4th for like a family reunion, which was pretty cool.
That is
Um,
cool.
yeah, it was dope. And then before that, I was in went to Atlanta, and then for in Atlanta for CSCA. I'm pretty sure some people on the call might have been at CSCA. And then I went to ACBSP, which is another like accredited Council of Business conference in Vegas, which was last minute. Booked the flight like a week before the conference. we just found out about it. It was crazy. And then Orlando for the cruise, and then back in Atlanta for a couple weeks visiting family.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been crazy,
That's a
but
lot.
good,
I hope
but
hope
good.
you can settle in soon.
I'm so ready to get back home. It's not even funny. Like I miss my bed.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
I miss my bed for sure. I cannot wait to get back home. All right, cool. It's 5 minutes. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining. I'm gonna share my screen and just let me know when you all can see my screen with the presentation. Give me one sec. Oh, and can you Rebecca, how do you say your last name? I want to make sure I pronounce it right. Oh, you're on mute.
My last name is pronounced Paré, as in hip
Hooray.
hip hooray.
Hooray. I like that. I like that. I like that a
A
lot.
little fun.
Hooray. Nice, nice. Oh, actually, give me one sec. Let me pull up my yes, presenter view. Here we go. Share my screen one more time. All right. Thumbs up, Rebecca. Hip hip parade. um, Thanks everybody for joining. My name is Leander Howard II. We have a wonderful guest, Rebekah Paré here, um, to join us for this topic of new metrics of success, policy, politics, and the path forward for career services. I'm really excited about this conversation. I connected with Rebekah probably like maybe 2 months ago on LinkedIn. Was really impressed with just her experience and how long she's been in the higher ed space. And when she told me about the topic, I thought it was just very timely with everything that's going on in the world, in the government, and politics, and how it's affecting career services. So I'm super happy you're here, and I appreciate you for joining. Just a brief intro for Rebekah. Rebekah is a career services consultant and strategy coach with 20 years of experience in higher ed, teaching, advising, academic policy, fundraising, and career services. She has served in career services leadership with roles at Washington University in St. Louis and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Rebekah has consulted globally with 30 plus institutions, including Michigan, Oregon, British Columbia, and Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and on grant funded career competency projects on math, TPSC math, and French disciplines, the French embassy. As a respected thought leader, she advocates for the elevation of career services to address strategic higher education priorities. She holds advanced degrees in German literature and musicology. And in a brief intro of myself, if you haven't met me already, my name is Leander Howard II. I'm a career services industry expert, marketing strategist, and entrepreneur on a mission to revolutionize how job seekers land opportunities and how organizations enhance career services at scale. As the co-founder and chief marketing officer of WriteSea, I lead the charge in integrating AI-powered career mobility solutions that help colleges and universities improve career outcomes and create structured hiring pathways. My journey in career services started in 2020 when I founded my first company called Spark Your Resume, which was a career coaching firm that helped over 1,000 job seekers secure roles at Amazon, Deloitte, Google through hands-on experience in like resume optimization, LinkedIn branding, interview coaching, and salary negotiation. I've pretty much built a reputation as a trusted advisor for job seekers across all industries. I've had the privilege of being featured in Afrotech, Tech is the New Black, 85 South Show, Rolling Out, sharing insights on career development, entrepreneurship, and marketing strategy. Before stepping into career services space, I did play football at Georgia State University, where I earned two bachelors, one in marketing, one in finance. My competitive drive and passion for career development, job market innovation, and AI-driven hiring solutions pretty much fuels everything I do. And just to kick us off, would love to, let me see if I can pull this up, actually. Oh, maybe my polls didn't come through. Give me one sec. Okay, no worries. But yeah, I'll kick us off with our first question. I'm gonna stop sharing screen so you can get back on full screen here. Rebekah, did you have any words before you start?
No, thank you for having me, Leander, and everybody out there. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I'm really excited about it. I think it's obviously super timely. I think this creates incredible opportunity for us as a lever of perhaps gaining more advocacy and support. So we'll talk and unpack all of that today.
Oh, okay. Here we go. I thought I couldn't see it, so I just launched a poll just to get more insights, gain more insights of who's on the call. If you could please answer these 7 questions, and then we'll get started with the highly engaged and informative conversation. Actually, I'm looking forward to it as well because I'm not an expert as much as Rebekah. So, um, shameless plug. I actually do this for me more than anybody else. I'm just playing, but I most definitely getting a lot of insight from our guests. So I appreciate you joining.
This will be fun. You really limited the ice cream flavors though, Leander. Like I don't
I
know. I don't
know
know what I would pick.
you got to drop it in the chat if you don't see your ice cream flavor. My favorite is chocolate chip cookie though. That's my favorite.
Yes. Yeah, that is a hard one to say no to.
Yes, ma'am. Most
I like
definitely.
I like anything with chocolate and peanut butter or chocolate and caramel. It's my
Okay.
jam.
Do you
Yeah.
like have you had Jamocha almond fudge? It's like one of my mom's favorite from like Baskin Robbins.
No, but I bet that's delicious.
She loves it. Chocolate, I think caramel's in it.
Sounds like coffee.
Yeah, it's like yes, it's most
Yeah.
definitely like a coffee flavor ice cream. It's really good actually.
See, that brings me back to my childhood because I grew up in Rhode Island. I don't know how
Okay.
many people are here in Rhode Island, or those of you who might be nearby in Massachusetts um, may know that Rhode Island has its own product called, it's like a coffee syrup. So instead of like a chocolate syrup or caramel syrup, it's like coffee flavored syrup. And so you could get coffee milkshakes, which we called cabinets, coffee cabinets. And whenever I was sick, my grandmother would bring me a coffee cabinet. Okay, Angela, yes. Yes, and coffee ice cream, right? You can't, I'm in Wisconsin now, and like, despite the fact that this is the dairy state, like coffee ice cream is not on the menu. I'm telling you.
That's crazy. I didn't know you were from Rhode Island. That's cool.
Yeah, I am. Littlest, biggest
Nice.
state in the union. I have cheese curds. That is so true, and it's such a problem. They are so delicious.
Now, strawberry ice cream is most definitely underrated. I didn't like it at the beginning of like my childhood, but lately as an adult, I most definitely appreciate strawberry ice cream. It's actually really, really good in
Oh,
Rhode
your
Island.
grandma made coffee syrup. That's amazing. Iced coffee,
Nice.
yes. So yummy.
I'll give it a couple more minutes. You almost got 100%, like 76% participation in the poll. So let's see if we can get to 90 or 100. That'd be great.
That's amazing.
And then we'll kick it off.
Vanilla, Team Vanilla. Alicia, yes. You can doctor that all kinds of ways. That's what I would pick of these. Or maybe chocolate. I do have a soft spot for chocolate.
Oh, and if you have any questions while we're during the webinar, please leave your questions in the question and answer box.
Banana flavored. Yeah. Hey, David, when you're on your way to Culver's, will you pick me up something? You can pick me up a small cheese curds too. Totally. Maybe a little turtle sundae.
Culver's is phenomenal. I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota for an internship at Wells Fargo. It was my first time ever seeing Culver's. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like the burgers are good, the chicken
It's
sandwiches are
bad.
good.
Yeah.
I was okay. This is because we didn't. I don't think we got Culver's until down south until like 2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
And
most
they're
definitely
rapidly
like a
expanding now.
no, they are. It was most definitely like a Midwest up north thing. Like I've never heard of Culver's before I went to Minneapolis.
Yeah, it is a Wisconsin thing.
Yeah,
The
they're
home of cheese
so it's from
curds. Yeah.
it's from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. That makes sense then.
Yeah.
Why I say Minneapolis next door. That
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Cold
Nice.
Stone. Mud Pie Mojo. Wow. I've never heard of that one before.
Cold Stone is good.
Yeah. I love it when people are getting really,
Bojangles. He said Bojangles.
yeah.
Bojangles is good. Bojangles is good. Oh, wait, who was in Tulsa this weekend? What? What did you eat in Tulsa? I don't know why I can't see the name. It says
Eddie. Looks like
ED.
Eddie Brewer.
Eddie? Okay. Eddie, what did you eat in Tulsa? The district. Eddie from Chicago. Nice. So you ate at the district? Was it downtown? I think the district. The Arch district? Okay. Yes. Got you. Yes. No, the Arch district has a lot of great food. Now, Tulsa is we have some really good food in Tulsa. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty good. Um,
Yeah.
I was very shocked by moving there and being impressed with the amount of food they have. Like it's very diverse and a lot of good options.
Coffee ice
Okay,
cream, almonds. Oh my goodness. That sounds
cool.
amazing, Tammy.
Well, we got to about 80% participation, which I'm pretty happy about. So yeah, let's kick off the conversation. I know the first question I have for you, Rebecca, is we're seeing a lot of national conversation around higher education accountability. Things
Yeah.
like student return on investment, job outcomes, and salary data. Why do
Hmm.
you think career services is becoming such a hot topic in that mix?
Yeah. There are a lot of reasons, I think. One is not surprised to anybody on this call, right? That there's just been this big shift in public expectations, right? So we're seeing increased tuition and increased student debt, and families, students, they want to see a much more clear return on investment, right? Will this degree lead to a good job? And, I think related to that, we have the increase in, state legislators hearing concerns and complaints from their stakeholders. And so they're also thinking and talking about this, right? If students are leaving with a degree and high student debt and they are not landing a good job or one that allows them to pay for, at least a satisfying life, right? Uh, these legislators have concerns and feel like they really need to speak up on behalf of their constituents. So this shift in expectation, coupled, I think, with the high debt, high tuition challenges that higher education is really facing is really important. So I think like with that, then we're starting to see more attention on outcomes, right? So if we're hearing complaints that students aren't being successful on the job market, well, how can we hold higher education accountable? And you know, all of us working in higher education have seen, right, that higher education is not really good at making the case for how we take this incredible experience at a university or college and turn that into these wonderful postgraduate success stories, especially if you're a college or university that's not really focused on that at all and is really focused on the experience right in front of you, right? The academic experience or the academic mission. And so as a result, I think we're starting to see more federal and state reporting and requirements around earnings. They're looking at debt to income ratios. And I think these career outcomes are becoming more standardized. And in career services, right, we kind of sit at this really important bridge between the academic experience and the academic mission of the institution and the career outcomes and workforce development in our state and region. And so, how can we think about how to leverage this, right? And how do we help advocate on our campuses to shift the perception that career services is no longer a nice to have. It's not a checkbox that you can tick anymore. It's really becoming a measure of institutional effectiveness. So how do we lean into that? And I'd be curious, I mentioned a number of things. Like folks out there, did I miss anything? Would you add anything to, why career services is becoming such a hot topic in this national conversation? So feel free to add to that.
No, I agree. I think just being a recent, not I guess recent grad and somewhat, I'm 5 years out of college. And I was just at Georgia State last week for a lunch and learn, and they were just really honing in on how student outcomes is their main priority for 2025 and 2026 because at the end of the day, it's affecting accreditation, it's also affecting funding, and then being able to articulate why their institution is valuable to people that are looking to become enrolled. People are looking at their return on investment. I'm spending 40,000 and I'm graduating with no job in hand or no way to pay this stuff back within the next 3 to 5 years, maybe even 10 years. It's not looking likely. It's not looking like the best option anymore. Um,
Right.
and then Karen also said something
Yeah.
looking at us because they need data from us that can explain what's happening, not happening, and why.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Any thoughts about that comment?
No, I mean, I think that's exactly kind of the point in case, right? I mean, this is when I work with my clients, one of the things I talk a lot about is these levers of control that we have, right? Data is a really interesting lever of control, right? Folks want data, they want to know what's going on, they want to know um, how we can, like metrics is just an obvious way. Higher education is really rooted in metrics that we try to move, right? They've just been focused on other metrics. It's not that they don't care about data, it's just that they've been focused on different ones. They've been focused on persistence and retention and enrollment and time to degree and graduation rates, right? And
Right.
career outcomes has sometimes been included in that, and sometimes it's not been
Not.
included. And we're going to talk about that too. But I think um, they're looking for that data. Career services sometimes is the home of that data. Sometimes it's not. But if you have access to that data and you can help, your institutions understand what is working and what's not, I think is leveraging that data, right? Who are you reaching? Who you're not reaching? I think that's all very important.
Absolutely. My next question is, some states are starting to tie funding or public reporting to student career outcomes. What kinds of policy changes are you seeing, and how should career centers be paying attention?
Yeah. So we have certainly a lot of state policy. We also have federal policy. And I'm going to just start real quick with federal because that's like the news of the month, right? So on July 4th, uh, our current federal administration signed into law the new Reconciliation Act, which now takes that gainful employment regulation that we were sometimes working under, sometimes we weren't working under, depending on the presidential administration. That's now back, but in full force. So gainful employment tended to focus predominantly on for-profit institutions as well as graduate programs or certificate programs, things like that. And now it's being applied to all higher education.
Mm,
And so what that's doing is it's setting new earnings standards as a metric of accountability. Not surprising. Is that a right standard? No, we could talk all day about how that's a terrible standard by which to measure, but there are very few good metrics, I think, for the federal government to hang on to. So they're hanging on to earnings. And so the way this is working right now is 4 years after graduation, whatever year you're graduating, or excuse me, whatever degree program you're graduating from, um, is that earning by program higher than the median high school earnings in your state? So,
mm,
and that would be high school. If you're a bachelor's degree, it would be the next lowest down to high school. If it's master's, it would be to bachelor's, PhD to master's.
got you.
So, and they're using the I'm forgetting it, the census data, the American Community Survey, to pull those data points, right? We don't often collect that data. We don't collect data 4 years out of college for what it's worth.
Right.
Institutions aren't looking at that typically. So this is something that we really should start paying attention to. So that's what's going on at the federal government, right? So they're getting really serious about this. And if those of you who like got into Project 2025 to learn about, what this administration is really thinking about in terms of accountability, this is a good example of what some of the stuff that they're worried about. They're very much focused on workforce development and that transition out of school. And this is a weak
Mm,
place for higher education, so they're needling in on it. States are doing the same thing, and states have been doing it for longer. So I mentioned a great deal of metrics before, like retention and persistence and time to degree, right? A lot of states have held that as part of their model for performance-based funding. So state institutions have to hit these certain metrics each year in order for them to get their state allocation of higher ed funding. And states like Tennessee, Texas, Florida, Wisconsin have job placement. I know we hate the phrase, folks, but that's the phrasing people are using. The career outcomes data as part of the set requirements for this performance-based funding model. Some of these states are using it just in community colleges, some are using it for all public colleges. So I'm in Wisconsin. Our requirement is focused on technical colleges and community colleges. But I think places like Florida, I believe, is applying it more broadly. There are other states working on more transparency around outcomes. So they're collecting this data and presenting it back to students and families so they can make better choices. Um, Virginia, they're doing something a bit different. They are looking at, or they have passed a law requiring work-based learning initiatives at every single institution in the university. I mean, in the state. So, really, this is about leveraging workforce development, regional, workforce development efforts, and higher education institution to work more collaboratively together to better prepare students and also try to retain them in the state. And then there are many states that have K through 12. So one of the things to focus on is what's all the activity going on in the K through 12 space where career development is being pushed from state administration down through, elementary school to high school. So that's kind of what's going on in the policy front. And I just gave a few examples. I think there are probably many more out there. And hopefully I represented them all accurately. It's sort of hard, like chasing these things down is like herding cats, maybe. And it's a little tricky. But I think what I want to emphasize to you is that there's a lot of copycat activity happening. So performance-based funding happens in a couple of states, and then more states are paying attention and they're learning from that, and they're going to do it. So look at the states that are around you, or who do you know your governor tends to be buddy-buddy with, or who's your state kind of modeling itself after or talking about perhaps some of these spaces, because that could give you an indicator about what's to come. And getting ahead of that, especially around data, for example, data and accountability, I think is really important, and it's a great opportunity. Right. So that's just sort of scratching the surface. The Carnegie classification has now got a new focus on economic mobility. We're seeing evolving accreditation requirements, right? We're seeing this Tennessee and Florida and Georgia, I think, are banding together and they're creating their new higher education accreditation standards that are kind of moving out of the DEI space and moving into workforce development space, right? For better or for worse. That's kind of some of the shifting that we're starting to see. What they end up landing with will be really interesting. But so there's lots of movement around. So if you're looking around and paying attention, you're going to see this is such a hot topic. Some of our institutions are not paying attention. They should be.
That was phenomenal. I know we discussed a few things offline. So you said that advocating for career services isn't just about asking necessarily for more resources. It's about educating
Right.
campus leadership, right? So what does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah. So I think um there are a few ways in which to do that. I'm just going to pause though, because I see Karen has a question here that I'm going to just hop into real quick, which is like, why do we think they're so focused on increases in salary as a measure of our effectiveness when we have no control over what employers choose to pay and the qualifications they require? 100% Karen. This is like I said, there are a lot of problems with this measure. That is one of them, right? Labor market is not something that higher ed controls. So
100%.
right, we have a lot of gender and racial inequity with regard to salary, right? We also have interesting geographical differences with regard to salary. And so those of you who follow me on LinkedIn may have seen like not too long ago, I posted like, hey, you want to increase your salaries at your institution? Send your students out of state, move them away, right? That's what your state wants. They want you to have less graduates and more brain drain. I mean, some of it doesn't make any sense to me, right? To be totally honest with you, it is not strategic, but it's something I think what it comes down to is what is the measure that they can see change over time. And salary is the one they latched onto. I don't think it's a particularly strategic data point. And so, Karen, your point is exactly right. Going back to then, like, okay, so how do we advocate, right? We want to have all of these, we want to see some change. I'm here talking about there's policy and accreditation and all the stuff around us that's sending all of these signals out that career services is becoming more and more important. So how do we help our institutions see that? One of the ways I think to really think about that is, first of all, many of our leaders have been trying to operate for the last 6 months, 7 months on shifting sands, right? And before that, even, we have higher education leadership, focused on some really serious issues. We've got enrollment crises happening. They're getting worse now, not better because of policy. We've got the demographic cliff coming there. So they're worried about their bottom line. Some of our institutions are closing because they're not financially viable, right? So there's a lot of big problems that they're working on. if they think career services is fine, that it's not on fire, it's not burning, right? They're just gonna leave it alone. And I
Right.
remember having a conversation with one of my clients. She brought in her vice president of student affairs, and she's like, well, it's not on fire here. So I said, light it on fire. How do we light this on fire? Because frankly, the way I see it, if you look around this country, shit's on fire. Let's be honest, right? Like stuff's happening. So I think raising this issue, it is important, right? Being thoughtful and strategic about how do we raise this issue. The other thing is that before all of these policy changes and some of these big issues, we still have outdated thinking about what career services is. Career
Mm,
services is not a resume and internship shop. But ask
mm,
anybody on your campus, and I
mm.
guarantee you those are two words that they will use when they describe what you do. And although I will tell you, I had one campus partner say, "You review resumes?" I was like, "What's going on here?" So I think, right, like we've got to think about how to reframe what it is we do. And we need to talk about our work in terms that resonate with campus leaders. What are your campus leaders focused on? What are the principal institutional priorities? When you listen to your president or chancellor talk, what do they talk about? What is your provost talking about? What are your deans talking about? What is on their radar and on their mind, right? Because if it's retention, enrollment, mental health, student success, those are things you influence with all the work that you do. So how do you position what you do in that frame of mind, right? So that's one thing. The second piece is like as you're working on addressing these priorities, right? Identify your initiatives that line up with that activity, right? What are you doing that's increasing belonging? Right? Do you have a first gen initiative going on in your office, right? Are you doing specific outreach to specific populations of students to bring them in? Um, do you have a group program that meets with students on a regular basis where you're creating community, right? What are all the ways in which you're supporting the initiatives around belonging? And I would say, how do you talk about that in the frame of what your leadership is interested in? And how do you demonstrate that you're a team player by advancing that initiative? So here's the secret with leadership and human behavior is that your leaders are being held accountable for things just like you are, right? Your leaders, your president is being held accountable probably by a board, right? Um, your provost is being held accountable to the president, and they have big, challenging initiatives that they're trying to get through. And so they're focused on their priorities. They're not focused on your priorities. They're focused on their priorities, right? So they're always thinking, like, how am I going to get this work done? How am I going to get this work done? And if they suddenly see you as somebody who's advancing their work through your efforts, you're going to get a little more attention and you're going to get potentially some more resources to support what it is that you're trying to do, right? So I think that that's a really critical strategy that you can employ, right? And then another thing, short strategic updates to deans, vice presidents, cabinet members helps build understanding over time. Those of you who get my newsletter, and I have a link for you to follow that later, but those of you who get my newsletter, like on Monday, I just wrote all about how to use writing to influence campus leadership, right? Most
Mm.
of these folks are academics. They love to read. They read all the time, right? How do you get your thoughts in front of them in real strategic ways? So long answer, sorry, but that's
No, all
I
good.
think
This is great.
really important strategies to understand.
No, I think that was phenomenal. Let's move on to another question. Presidents and trustees don't always understand the full scope of what career services does. I guess we kind of touched on this a little bit.
Yeah.
How can leaders reframe their work in ways that it resonate at that level?
Yeah, so let's get more tactical. So one is right, like what I just talked about is how do you align your work with the things that your campus leaders are focused on and are trying to move the needle on. Now, like how do we shift the conversation around that? One of the biggest mistakes that I see career services do, like annual reports are a great example of this. Like I challenge you to look at your annual reports and see how many times you write things like we held 20 workshops. That's great. It's awesome that you held 20 workshops. But my next question for you, and don't be offended by me by asking this, but this is just a way to challenge our thinking. It's like, so what? If there's no so what answer, right? If there's no answer to that question,
Mm,
nobody is drawing any grand conclusions from that statement. So we do a lot of work, and how we represent that work sometimes looks like bean count. I call it bean counting. Like, how many people showed up at the resume? How many people did our appointments? Like, those are numbers you should all be monitoring. They're important. But what does it mean to what it is you're trying to accomplish? What does it mean for how you're advancing some of these bigger initiatives, right?
right.
It's not just that you held 20 workshops, but you held 20 workshops that increase belonging in this way, right? With so many students. And so you're suddenly shifting this to be much more about the strategy behind the data, and the data supports the strategy, right? Alicia's saying, what's the impact of the work? Right. So you're focused on outcomes, not activity. Activity is valuable and you need to track activity. So don't get me wrong. Like, these are numbers that you need to know. But when you represent that outward, what do you want them to think about that? And my secret for you is this: nobody's thinking about you and your work. And they're not going to draw the conclusions you expect them to draw unless you draw that for them, right? So you tell them what to think, and that's what's going to stick with their brain. But they are not going to draw those conclusions on their own. So I think that's something that you really want to think about, right? And so use the language they use. Push into things like rankings and reputation and peer comparisons. Like, that gets everyone all flutter, right? Like, that's the stuff that people get excited about. So if that's on your campus, lean into that, right? So, and just think about, like, what is the competitive advantage Career Services offers at your institution compared to other institutions? Can you state that, right? Like, those are the things, the kinds of talking points your president is looking for all the time. I mean, they might be talking to your governor. They may be entertaining legislators. They may be going to conferences with other senior leaders, and they want to kind of differentiate themselves. Give them the language to do that, right? Give them the stories and the data. That's what I think so important.
Leaders care about data. That's it. That's
Yeah, and
it.
stories and stories.
And stories. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They can sell it to a jury.
Yeah.
You can sell a story. But yes,
Yeah.
data is important. Really, really important. So for professionals who are a few layers
Yeah.
um, removed from the cabinet or board, how can they still influence strategy and get career services on the radar of these different decision makers?
Yeah. So the short and long of it is you probably aren't going to do it alone, right? So essentially what you want to do is try to find your ambassadors. So I would take a moment to really assess your relationships. Who do you know? What access do they have to leadership's ear, right? Do you have a particular, like, department chair that you work with that happens to be on all the committees? Like, it's tapped for everything? Seems to be a voice people listen to, right? What can you do to strengthen that relationship and start helping them make the case, or bring them into helping you make the case, right? So, like, you could think about your faculty, you can think about alumni, you can think about student leaders, even, right? Who do you know who's doing some of this, are in position to be able to say some important things in a way that will resonate with leaders because they're already well respected on your campus. And that can be one way to start. I will tell you, my experience is going onto campuses and talking to a lot of these stakeholders. So many people are thinking about career, they just don't know what to do about it. They don't know what to do with it. They may have some ideas. Sometimes that's why we get kind of wild and crazy strategic plan ideas for career, right? Like, you might be one of those institutions, you're like, I have no idea how we're going to implement that outcome, or that strategy, right? Um, it's because people are thinking about it and they're talking about it, but they need leadership around this, right? And so I highly recommend, if you're not out talking to your campus leaders, your deans, your influential faculty, your provost, your vice president of enrollment management, admissions directors, like all of these people you should be having regular conversations with and ask them, like, what do they need from career? What do they want for student success? And you'll start to hear these themes. And then you can start to pull these themes and represent that to your campus. And what's great when you start to do that, when you represent these ideas back to campus, they're not your ideas, they're everyone's ideas, right? And now you have evidence that the deans are thinking about this, that admissions needs more from you on this and that, right? So you can start to, again, sort of pull in uh, these voices to really help make your case and get that kind of support and amplify that. And so again, right, success stories, you can work with your marketing communications team to tell stories about the things that are going on in your office, like invite them to the career fair, invite them to talk with some of your employers, invite them to talk with some students who've had some really great successful stories. They're always looking for stories. And Leander, I know you have a background in marketing, so you know this. People are looking for great stories to tell. You guys have such fabulous stories. Like, lift those stories up, and that'll start helping people think about what you do a little bit differently. I would collaborate with
Absolutely.
institutional research and advancement, participate on committees, and I would say yes more than I would say no. And I think that's really important. I worked with one campus where the campus career center director said no to everybody. Now we have all these deans who want stuff. We got attention. But he's saying, I don't have capacity. I just don't have capacity. And then what happens is those deans go and they find the money and they start building their own career centers. And because this person said no. And now we have a problem where this career center, centralized career center, has lost its identity. So I think these are things that are really, really important and really, I don't know, how you also appear as a team player is just really, really important.
No, absolutely. We got a couple questions in the chat. Karen, what kinds of metrics can we provide that institutional and state leaders really need that they're not getting, which will be persuasive in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I always find that these questions are really difficult. I mean, you know what the career outcomes metrics are. I would really focus on making sure that your metrics are accurate and accessible. And one way to do this is to partner with institutional research to help you with this. But I'll tell you right now, one of the things I do sometimes is look at first destination survey data. And I look at response rates versus knowledge rates, right? Response rates are the number of students that actually respond to your survey. And the knowledge rate is what you do between the response rate and trying to get full participation, right, by looking at LinkedIn profiles or calling up faculty or calling your students yourself to try to fill in the gap so that you get higher numbers of responses overall. So, if you have response rates that are under 50%, it's possible that your data is not accurate, right? It's biased positively, which means it looks better than it is. And when campus leaders see that great data, I worked with just one school this spring, campus would not pay any attention to career services because they're like, everything's great. I'm like, but you have a 30% response rate. That's like I mean, if you have 70% of your students not responding to the first destination survey, I would be freaking out, right? That's possible that 70% are not doing too great, don't want to share, right? So I think you have to really think about that. Then I would say, what can you do to line up? And this is hard, Karen. So, like, I'm not going to pretend that this is super easy, but if you can get institutional research to help, or if you can get access to um, like retention and persistence data, if you have your own data person in your office, that would be awesome if you did. How can you see what like career participation, what that engagement or how that engagement influences any of those career outcomes? So if students are using your office 3 times over the course of their, we'll talk about traditional 4-year bachelor's program, right? If you've got somebody engaged like 3 times over 4 years, did that move the needle? If they engaged 25 times, did it move the needle on salary? Did it move the needle on placement or landing, whichever term you prefer? What does it move the needle on the number of internships that they we're able to secure our experiential learning opportunities? Does it move the needle on graduate school? Right? So if you can draw any comparisons, that's the stuff that will stop those people in their tracks. That's really the stuff, right? So I'd say that. And then again, Karen, back to what I was saying earlier, what are the campus priorities and how is are your initiatives moving the needle on that in some way, right? So I think that's where it gets murky, right? Like I can't tell you that because I don't know, but depending on what it is that they're focused on, how are you moving the needle in those spaces and what data and stories can you tell to demonstrate that? Hope that makes sense.
No, that's phenomenal. I think we had one other question in the chat. So, what kind of platforms can be used for accurate data collection on graduate success stories?
So one of my, I mean, in terms of like trying to get first destination survey data,
Mhm.
and get responses, I don't know off the top of my head, honestly. I have not worked with a lot of those platforms, so I can't share with you. I can tell you there's a software that really should be paying me. I'll tell you because I talk about them all the time. And that's called Stepping Blocks. And Stepping Blocks, they crowdsource uh data on your alumni. They look at like 100 different sources of social media and pull that stuff in so that you can look by academic program on your campus, by year of graduation, by college, by a variety of different things. What are those people doing? What are the top employers for that area? What are the top skills that are being used in those positions? What are the top job titles? That I think is really, I've found so much success with that in terms of helping, especially our academic departments, tell their story about why somebody should consider an English major, for example, right? When you find that the top job titles are not like teacher and professor, but actually like president, CEO, CMO, you're like, whoa, that stops you in your tracks for a minute. Like, let's tell that story about English, right? So those are some things, right? Like I think that can help you add a lot of nuance because what's nice about the stepping blocks, it's not just the 6 month period, but within that graduation time period, like the first destination survey, it's much more longer term. It is not going to give you, I think, percentages of students employed overall. It's not going to do that kind of thing. And I think like the NACM survey, the National Career Mobility Survey, I think Lightcast runs that now. I think that's a survey that could be very helpful to you in that way.
Nice. Yeah, I heard about Lightcast. I know about Stepping Blocks. So those are pretty good resources.
Do you have any others you would add, Leander? Or anybody else,
Um,
folks? Like if you're
yeah, in the
using great
chat as well. Yeah,
tools, please share.
drop them in
Yeah.
chat. I've heard about. I don't think this is for first destination. Have you heard about grad leaders?
I've heard about grad leaders.
I
I
don't
don't
know
know
if they
enough
do.
about grad leaders yet.
Okay, yeah. I think they might do something around first destination surveys. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that, but
Okay.
I feel like I've heard they do something around there. But no, thank you for sharing those two. So you said stepping blocks, and then what was the other one you
The
just mentioned?
NACM, the National Career Mobility Survey.
Got you. Okay,
I think it's
grad
the
leaders.
National Alumni Career Mobility Survey.
Got you.
Christopher
Mm,
saying grad leaders is similar to
the
handshake.
handshake.
Yeah.
Got you.
So like some of these folks are thanks Nicole for that offer. Yeah, some of these folks have a number of tools by which you can survey your students. And so depending on, I mean, purchasing software like that has a lot of contingencies with it. But I think, right, like I think trying to find something that works for the needs that you have. Um, and I know my campus in the past has used Handshake, and that's been helpful. We also had a homegrown system at one point through institutional research. Having their help was critical, I thought.
Yeah, and I think Nicole. I think 1220 might. do something with first destination surveys as well? You can comment in the chat. That's true.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Yep,
I think you can
perfect.
capture a lot of stuff with 1220 in terms of, internships and experiential learning, reporting, and things like that. It's just still the same kind of challenge that we all have, which is getting students to respond. Like, what's the impetus and incentive for students to
Right.
complete this information for the institution? They're like, I know what I did. Why do you need to know?
Right. So speaking on that, what do you think institutions should, I guess, offer to students to incentivize them on completing like first destination surveys?
I really think that this is difficult.
Mm,
Partially because I think a lot of times it requires money and investment. So when I was at
right.
Wisconsin,
Sure.
the business school required it for the degree. So if you wanted your diploma, you had to complete the survey,
Mm,
right?
got you.
Like,
That's smart though.
yep. I think that getting the students to respond, I think this is the same with communication for with students just more broadly, which is why should they care? Why does it benefit them to
Right.
fill the survey out? And we don't ever make
What's
that case, I feel like. We
right.
just say, please, please, just please fill it out. It'll take like 5 minutes. Look, I got an iPad. You could do it fast. You can go on your phone. Like, who they don't care. They're busy,
Right.
right?
Right.
Especially we're asking students to do this around the time of finals, like final projects. Like, this is not a priority for them.
It's not.
Why should they care, right? So we tend to then incentivize things like we'll give you a free hat or a free mug or, okay, maybe someone was going to get motivated by that. They're going to want their, University of Tennessee mug before they leave. But I think you have to just really think strategically about how you're talking about it. I think one thing that does really resonate with this population is giving back. This information helps them give back to others, to future students.
Right.
And if you can help them remember what was it like when you were a first year student, second year student, trying to envision what was beyond graduation, this is the kind of information that helped us tell that story. So if you could
Right.
help supply that information, you're benefiting other students. And I think that really makes a big difference. Um,
I agree with that.
yeah, so I think like I would think about it in that. And then if you have other ways to incentivize participation and showing up, like I have one client who shows up at commencement practice, and while students are in line, she's like handing out iPads and she's got staff there collecting data for anyone who hasn't responded.
Oh
So
wow.
kind of fun and ways to do that where students are just sitting around waiting for something. You get them to complete some things. So I think about that, and I would partner with faculty and see if they could give you 5 minutes in a class for students to complete that survey before class started, because they want that data. They need that data, so they might be willing to help you with that. So look at big, larger courses where possible, and um, so and you might not even need to be there. You just need them to do it for you and create the space and give them the link.
Right. Last question, and I'll let you share more about your consulting business.
Yeah.
For someone who feels like they're doing good work but not getting, noticed, what's one small step they could take this month to start shifting that?
Yeah. A small step, maybe write up a success story about a student or an employer partnership that you have, especially if it's with a company in your state or a high brand company, a well-recognized brand that people would recognize, right? I would start writing that up, even if you wrote it kind of in an outline format and pitch it to your marketing team. And and if they won't take it, just write it yourself. Share it with your vice president, share in a leadership briefing, right? And then I would think about, other ways to just make your impact visible with a clear, concise narrative. Be real succinct about what it is that you do and the impact that you have. So maybe like a one-page snapshot could be helpful. Those kinds of things.
Mm. Now, one pages are most definitely helpful. What would you consider maybe putting on the one page?
Again, right? What are the major initiatives on campus and how you're moving the needle? I mean, you don't have to move the needle on all the initiatives, but if there's some progress that you're making in one area, I think that's great. Um, I know that, working for a vice president or vice provost, like they're always looking for good stories to be able to share with their provost or their president. And so, like anything in there that you can highlight that would give them a good news story to leave the end of the meeting with. Oh, I got to tell you this good news story about the Career Center. They had this big win, right? So I'd think about like what are some ways that you're moving the needle again towards those initiatives, right? You could think about your own initiatives and the difference that you're making there, student stories, testimonials, employer testimonials about your students and what they're saying. I like to think about it as sound bites. What would you love to like be on a fly on the wall and hear your president say your own words to the board or to a group of alumni? Like what is something that you'd want them to be able to say? So think about it in that frame of mind, right? Like those are high level talking points.
Right. No, I agree. So yeah, let me share your slide here. Thank you, Rebecca, for that. I really
Yeah, thank you.
appreciate it.
Sorry we didn't get to everybody's questions, but um, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I should find my link. I can share that.
Yes.
I'm very
Um,
active on LinkedIn, so if you haven't um, seen me yet on LinkedIn, come follow me.
yes.
And then you're gonna
Please
put up
drop
my
your LinkedIn.
slide
Yes, ma'am.
real quick for those that have a second, just to give you a link to my newsletter. I mentioned it. So if this is content that you enjoy, if you want to hear more detail and actionable strategies you can use to advance your work, advance the attention on your office, build compelling messaging. I talk about that in my newsletter a lot. So here's the QR code. My LinkedIn is in the chat. And then I do consulting. So I'm very focused on career services and elevating career services and tying career services to these strategic initiatives because it's so critical. That's kind of my shtick. I also do one-on-one leadership coaching. So I will work with your career center director or you to support you as you're working to make change. So folks like to think of me as a secret weapon and a thought partner. I always feel like I'm in people's back pocket, which I love. And then I have a group coaching program too for career services directors, and it really focused on again kind of timely issues that they're facing. So it's not a leadership development program where I tell you how to be a leader. Instead, we talk about what are the things that are what's causing you friction today, and how can I help you smooth that out so that you have fewer barriers and create more efficiency. So, oh, thank you, Eddie. Yeah, thank you, everybody.
No, thank you. If you haven't heard much about WriteSea, we're an all-in-one career services suite, meaning your students have the ability to create resumes, personalized cover letters, simulate mock interviews, negotiate their salary and benefits. We are doing some amazing work. We just signed some really huge clients I'm pretty proud of. Georgia State University, Arizona State, USC, just a few that have joined. And we're looking to roll out WriteSea this fall. So if you haven't scheduled a demo or have seen any of our product showcases at conferences, please take some time to do so. And I have a short survey after you leave the webinar just to gain more feedback about our conversation today, things you want to, or people you may want to hear from in the future. We try to run these webinars at least once a month. I'm looking to scale it up to maybe even 2 times a month because I feel like they're really engaging conversations. So please fill out the 2-minute survey at the end. And if you didn't catch our latest webinar with David from the CEO of UConnect, check out our blog on writesea.com to review that webinar. We have the recording there and also a recap to kind of go over the highlights and things that we mentioned throughout the webinar. Like I said before, you can scan the QR code here for the webinar, but I think it should pop up once I close out the meeting or once you exit. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining. And this is my contact information. If you want to reach out, my email, my cell phone number, and also connect with us on LinkedIn, follow WriteSea on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram as well.
And for those that are still here, my goodness, I know people are hopping off because they have other meetings, but if you didn't get your question answered and you want to ping me, just send me a message on LinkedIn or by email, and I'd be happy to send you a response or a resource that I think will be beneficial to you. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Leander.
No, thank you for joining. This has been really, really phenomenal. I've learned a lot. And oh, we'll have a recap sometime next week. So we'll usually do like a blog recap. We'll post a video on YouTube, and I'll make sure I share those links with you so you can send it out in your newsletter next week,
Awesome.
or the
Thank
week
you.
after, to share with your
Yeah,
community as well.
wonderful. That sounds great. Thank you, everybody. Nice to
Thank
see
you,
you
everybody, for
all.
joining.
Or bye-bye,
Talk
everyone.
soon. Thanks. Bye.